Top 3 world-changing advertisements. Did you know that Santa Claus didn't always wear red? Our entire perception of Santa Claus changed due to an advertising campaign. This video will show you how advertising has influenced our lives. Top 3 Women's Smoking Campaign. If you think bacon and eggs make a wholesome breakfast, and that smoking is an equal opportunity for both men and women, you've been spectacularly deceived by Edward Bernays, often considered the father of public relations. As the nephew of Sigmund Freud, the renowned Austrian neurologist and psychologist, Bernays applied Freud's psychoanalytic theory early on to identify goals and strategies for his PR campaigns. Freud postulated that humans are driven by unconscious desires. Bernays synthesized elements from Freud's theory, crowd psychology research, and Wilfred Trotter's instinct theory to execute complex campaigns that manipulated and altered public opinion. In the late 1920s, not many women smoked, and George Washington Hill, the CEO of the American Tobacco Company, wanted to change that. He hired Bernays to advertise the slogan "Reach for a Lucky" instead of a sweet. Bernays had a radically different mindset, believing that not every customer made rational decisions. While tobacco companies focused heavily on persuading women to buy and use their products, Bernays took a different approach. He believed that societal emotions and cultural biases were the biggest barriers in this context to get women to smoke. Bernays had to change the established norms, turning smoking into a positive image accepted by society. To achieve this, Bernays hired a group of women to participate in the Easter Sunday Parade in New York City. Unlike today's parades and protests that are common, this was a time when festivals and parades captured significant public attention. According to Bernays' plan, these women would simultaneously stop at an appropriate moment, light up, and smoke on the street. Bernays hired a photographer to capture these moments, which were then published in numerous major newspapers. As Bernays told reporters, these women weren't just smoking, they were torches of freedom, asserting women's autonomy. As a result, the campaign was a resounding success, leading to increased cigarette consumption among women and making smoking a symbol of empowered women equal to men. Top 2. Coca-Cola's advertising campaign changed the world's perception, turning Santa Claus into a plump man in a red suit. Before 1931, Santa Claus was portrayed quite diversely, with his suit ranging from gray to green to red. Coca-Cola began advertising for Christmas in the 1920s, with ads related to shopping in magazines like the Saturday Evening Post. The first Santa Claus advertising used a stern-looking Santa. In 1931, the company began placing Coca-Cola ads in famous magazines. Archie Lee, the executive director of the Darcy Advertising Agency working with Coca-Cola, wanted the campaign to portray a friendly, iconic Santa Claus. Thus, Coca-Cola commissioned illustrator Haddon Sundblom to create advertising images featuring Santa Claus. Sundblom's Santa Claus debuted in 1931 in a Coke ad and appeared regularly in that magazine as well as in many others. From 1931 to 1964, Coca-Cola's advertising showed Santa Claus enjoying the product, stopping to read a letter, and sipping a Coca-Cola. In 1942, Coca-Cola introduced Sprite Boy, a character that appeared alongside Santa Claus in Coca-Cola advertisements during the 1940s and 1950s. Gradually, the public's image of Santa Claus became synonymous with Coca-Cola's portrayal, plump, jolly, and especially dressed in red, the iconic color of Coca-Cola. Top 1. Cereal manufacturers' advertising campaign made most people believe breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Breakfast is often considered the most important meal of the day, a truth we all seem to take for granted. We even have a saying that goes, "Eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper." All of this has been ingrained in our minds since childhood, with the belief that skipping breakfast can adversely affect our health. The benefits of breakfast are listed, including boosting metabolism, reducing hunger throughout the day, providing essential nutrients, and enhancing focus. But there's an interesting fact that before this idea came into play, breakfast wasn't considered all that important. People had breakfast quite casually, with no typical breakfast food, and our grandparents simply ate whatever they had or leftovers from the previous night's dinner. The phrase "breakfast is the most important meal of the day" was actually coined by James Caleb Jackson and John Harvey Kellogg to sell breakfast cereals. They invented in the 19th century. It first appeared in the Good Health magazine, run by Kellogg. Later, the processed meat industry jumped on the bandwagon, persuading people about the importance of having protein for breakfast. Through these campaigns, the majority of North Americans began to believe that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and cereal became a staple food. Today, despite numerous studies showing that the breakfast as most important meal notion is not entirely accurate, this belief has spread worldwide as a scientific truth. Mothers often tell their children, don't skip breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. In reality, whether or not you should eat breakfast depends on your body and your individual needs. There's no one-size-fits-all formula for this.